Hi, my name's Breck and I'm the founder and CEO of RowZero. RowZero is the world's fastest spreadsheet. We're about 100 times faster than desktop Excel and 1,000 times faster than Google Sheets. To show you, I'm going to import some data. I could upload a file from my computer or import directly from a connected S3 bucket. This file is a 1 gigabyte CSV containing all domestic flights in the US from 2018. We also support JSON lines and Parquet files. And that's it. The data's been imported. If I control arrow to the bottom, I can see we're on row 7.2 million. And from here, I can write any Excel function that I want. I'll write a COUNTIF to find out how many flights departed Seattle's SeaTac airport that year. I get an instant answer of 140,000. I'll undo that and jump back to the top. If I want to filter this data set, just hit this funnel icon or go Data, Filter. And maybe it would, again, be interesting to look at SeaTac's departing flights. I apply a filter like that, and it applies instantly. From here, I can go to File, Download CSV if I want to download this smaller filtered data set to my computer. So RowZero is fast. RowZero can also import data directly from your database, ERP, or other APIs. To do that, just click the Connections tab. Your first time through, you'll click the Add Connection button and pick your data source and enter credentials. I'm going to use the Snowflake connection that I created earlier. I'll pick my database and run my SQL query. Now, this Snowflake table contains a row for every New York State hospital admission going back to 2009. You can see the data loading in here, and that's it. We just imported 31 million rows from Snowflake in 7 seconds. The data has come into this data table or data frame that's floating above the sheet. Now, this is not a preview. All the data is here. I can scroll through this thing and it'll scroll forever because it has 31 million rows. There's some advantages to this data table UI that I'll talk about in a second. But if you want to get the data into the underlying spreadsheet cells, you can just right-click this table and say Explode Table. And you can think of that like a copy-paste values into the underlying cells. If I control arrow to the bottom, we can see all 31 million rows are here. I'm going to undo to get back into data table mode. There's two advantages to data tables. The first is that the data in them is immutable. So if I try to type on my keyboard, I can't accidentally overwrite an imported value, which is a super common source of mistakes in Excel. The second advantage is data tables are refreshable. So if I double click this table, I can rerun the SQL statement or modify it if I want to. And it's possible that after refreshing, more data will come in the second time than the first time. The data table gives the data a little window to live in so that those additional rows aren't going to clobber my surrounding spreadsheet and any formulas that I've written. I can still interact with the data table using all the spreadsheet formulas that I can for normal data sitting in cells. So for example, if I want to sum the total charges column, I can just say equals sum. And if I arrow up, we autocomplete a reference to this entire column of data. If I hit enter, I get an instant answer for how much New York State has spent on healthcare since 2009. Next, it might be interesting to look at total spend by admission type by year. So to do that, I'm going to create a pivot table. I can right-click this table and say pivot to existing sheet. And for my rows, we want discharge year, admission type for columns, and for values, we'll do total charge, and sum is the aggregation that we want. Now this is a little bit ugly, so we'll clean this up with some currency formatting, less precision, and some more white space. Great, so now we've got our table that shows spend by admission type by year. And if we also want to add the total per year, maybe we want a new computed column here that's going to be the total for that year, so summing across each row. The way to do that is just to say equals sum in a column right next to the pivot table, and then you just reference the data in the pivot table by just saying, if I just arrow left, I can grab all of these columns, and this is going to sum across each row. Currency format that, and we can relabel this as total. Great. So let's graph this. So I'll press Control A to grab my table and then say Insert Chart up here. And we've defaulted to scatter, but let's get this as a line graph. So that's it. That easy to go from 31 million rows of data in Snowflake to a useful visualization summarizing this and the ability to see kind of the raw data behind it. I can right click to download this as a PNG or just copy it to my clipboard. The last thing that I'll show is how to write Python in row 0. So to do that, I'm going to create a new sheet and I'm going to go to this code tab. I'm going to delete this starter code, and you can write any Python code that you want here and consume it directly in the workbook. So I can write a function like this called foo that's going to return hello plus x. And then I can call this by just saying row 0 fastest spreadsheet ever. I can say foo of row 0 and copy that down with Control D. So functions that are defined at the top level scope in Python are available as formulas in the code window. We can convert strings and numbers to their corresponding spreadsheet types, and we can also convert data frames. So if I go back to that sample code, every workbook starts with this code. This function is using the Yahoo Finance module to return a pandas data frame of stock price information for a provided ticker symbol. So I'll press Shift Enter to run the code window and bring the stock function into scope, and then go over here and say equals stock of AMZN. And YFinance is returning a pandas data frame that we're marshaling into the spreadsheet and converting it to a data table. Format the date column as a date and make these guys currencies, add a comma here. And let's plot Amazon stock price over time. So we'll do date versus the close, insert that as a line graph. And one of the nice features for our graphs that we also have is 2-axis graphing. So I'll add another series where we're going to look at the stock splits that Amazon's had, and we will put those on the right axis, and we'll make those a bar chart. So yeah, very easy to consume Python code in your workbook, and then have point and click graphing on top of data returned from Python. The last thing to show is sharing. So if you want to share this workbook, just come up here, enter an email address. You can give people editor or viewer permissions. And we also support real-time collaboration. So if two people are editing workbooks simultaneously, you'll be able to see each other's cursors and co-edit the spreadsheet. So that's it. It's a whirlwind tour of row 0. Give it a try and let us know what you think. Thank you.